Welcome back, everybody, to Let's Play Mega Man X2 for the Super Nintendo. Today we take on the X-Hunters, and beforehand, I actually went off screen and filled up my sub-tanks a little bit because, God almighty, I really do not like the first two bosses of the Fortress stages, and admittedly, it's actually one area in which I think X1 does a little bit better as far as memorable stage design is concerned. And that's not to say that these stages don't have any merit. I think there are some cool gimmicks that you can play around with here that you wouldn't find anywhere else in the game that do kind of push your limits a bit. But other than that, though, these stages are kind of unremarkable at worst. And one of them is incredibly short and forgettable on top of that as well. So, yeah. One thing I do like about the first stage, though, is that it brings back a gimmick that we haven't really seen since, like, the beginning of the game, the intro stage, to be exact. And, buddy, please, thank you. And that's these wall crusher things. And I think that's kind of cool, because in the intro stage, it kind of reminded us how the wall jump began, right? Because that was a skill we had from X1, and it only really makes sense to bring it back into Fortress stages in such a way where not only do you have to utilize your speed, but platforming skills as well, and that's pretty fucking awesome, honestly. So, gotta be really precise here, and by precise, I may not do that, so... Ooh, ow! God, fuck your hitbox. Jesus Christ. Not the best run in the world, but hey, this is what happens when we come back to a game after not playing it within several years or so. So, one technique I do recommend doing when you're climbing up these walls is to actually hold the dash button and jump as you're scaling the walls. So that way you dash off of them and scale the walls quicker. And this is actually another change I'm a big fan of for X2 and onwards that nobody really talks about for some reason, and I figured, you know what, I'd address. So, in X1, something you had to do to scale off walls quickly is that, please, good sir, keep your magnet hands off of me, thank you. So in X1, you had to press the dash button and the jump button at the same time. And I didn't like that because sometimes I'd mess up that input and I would just scale off the wall normally and I wouldn't make the speedy jumps I'd need to cross bigger gaps. In this game, all you really need to do is hold the dash button while scaling walls and you'll be able to climb up them faster. And this, my friends, is an amazing change. I don't know why nobody talks about this, but if we're talking about amazing slice of life changes, this would definitely be on the top of the list. I like things that alter my movement in positive ways, you know? It's like adding a good buffer system to a fighting game, for example, you know? It's kind of on that scale, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, God! We did not space that well. There we go. Anywho, enough positivity for now. Unfortunately, we have ourselves a boss, and a boss that is very heavily reliant on RNG. Probably the worst designed boss in the entire game. This is Violin, and he has an attack pattern that's next to impossible to read, basically. He has this giant-ass fucking wrecking ball that I swear to God is faster than you, and the best I can really recommend here is to pray. Pray. Because, good lord, this thing is so difficult to outmaneuver. And this boss is just garbage. I really hate violence so much. Because of that, he hits like a truck even if you do have your armor upgrades, and it's not a fun fight at all. I remember playing through this game trying to do like an unarmored minimalist run, and I swear to God I was about to throw the fucking controller at the TV because god damn it. I love X2, but even this game has its own flaws. And I think the first two Fortress bosses are definitely the worst defenders at X2 because, good lord, they're a bunch of horse shit, and I never look forward to this part of the game because the best I can do is the fucking rush them. Like, you can't really sit there and, like, play around and, like, play patient with them. You just kind of have to, like, destroy him before he destroys you. And that's the best I can really say, because you cannot fucking outpace his Wrecking Ball. Especially if he has pattern RNG like that, and he puts you in an uncomfortable spot. Ugh, Jesus Christ. On top of that, he also spawns these blocks that he didn't have in his original fight that kind of influences the Wrecking Ball movement. And yeah, this fight is just not pleasant. I really hate it. I really hate bosses that force me to, like, just abandon my abandon my movement, abandon my reading skills, and just fucking play a Unga Boonga. And that is exactly what this boss is Unga Boonga. You gotta play Unga Boonga or you won't win. You cannot fucking take your time with this boss at all. Unless you're lucky, you know. This boss requires a lot of RNG, and a lot of people who speedrun this game fucking hate Violin. There's no way in mastering his pattern, you know. Sergi's isn't much better, but at least he does have a decipherable pattern, albeit not very fun either. His stage, on the other hand, is basically not remarkable. Wait a second, I just filled these sub-tanks, what? I'll be right back. Alright, that's much better. So, I guess passwords don't apparently save your sub-tank energy for some reason? That's really strange and bizarre, because I'm certainly going to need them for this boss fight, for sure, and that's mostly because I don't have a whole lot of patience for it. So this stage is kind of unremarkable, honestly, and that is because it's really short, and the main segment that really does pose any threat is more so designed to waste your time, if anything. It's a decent test of your wall jumping skills and platforming skills for sure, but the execution could have been a lot better for certain, and not done in such an obtrusive way. Ooey. But yeah, Bubble Burst is really good for this first section here. And on top of that, it actually gives you added mobility underwater that lets you jump even higher than you already could, too. So that's pretty cool. Anywho, this is the main segment of the stage that's worth writing home about. Air Dash is so good for getting past a lot of this nonsense. If I swear to God, I can't picture myself without it for this level. But yeah, it's pretty fucking awkward to get through here without it, and it's just an awkward section overall where you just have to wait more so than usual. Ah, I was trying to jump off the platform. Christ. I guess I'm so salty that I can't think even in, like, the simplest sections, apparently. But you know what? I guess I could use that energy pellet right there. Why not? I don't see any harm in it. What you gonna give me? A whole bunch of nothing, apparently. You know what? Why not? I think I'm only gonna really need 2 for this anyway. But yeah, this here is... Like, I know Violin is technically the worst designed boss by comparison, but Sergi's is probably the least fun to fight. And his attack pattern isn't necessarily the problem, it's more so the terrain you're given to work with. And on top of that, his weakness sucks dick, especially in the second phase of the fight. Oh, Jesus Christ. I've already told you guys that I'm not a big fan of the Sonic Slicer, and unfortunately this fight really warrants it if you want to make this fight a lot more tolerable. Use charged Sonic Slicers for this first portion here to get rid of the turrets. Basically, his thing is that, like, he rides on that little, like, lift thing, and it's more or less, like, dependent on where he is in that tank thing that he's going to fire off whatever from there. But yeah, the big problem kind of comes from actually hitting him in his stupid little ride carriage thingy with a fucking Sonic Slicer, no less. It's not a fun fight at all. And on top of that, he doesn't take a whole lot of damage from it either. And I just hate that you're given such limited platforming to work with here to really move around here. So to make things slightly more tolerable, I'm going to use the X-Buster. I do realize that there is a strategy in which you can stand on the platforms in a certain way to like minimize the amount of movement needed to avoid the projectiles, but man, it's just... Oh, you know... Oh, never mind. I was going to say I thought I figured it out for a second, but no, the game's not even going to give me that sense of victory. Alright, let's boot that subtech in. Yeah, it's just like, I don't mind the attack pattern. The problem is that I don't like it when a boss fight limits my movement. Especially when I'm mostly a reactionary heavy player who makes little reads every now and then. And like, this fight puts me out of my comfort zone and in the worst possible way. Like, you can have a fight with limited space, but this is not it. This is not it. You have these platforms that move in ways that you don't want them to. And it's just, it's not fun, damn it. It's just... What happened to the fast-paced fights we had earlier in the game, you know? This fight is like anything but that. It's just... Ugh. I'm not the most patient person in the world, and this fight is very, like, evident of that, for sure. Anywho, the worst of it is over! Thank God! Jesus fucking Christ. Now back to positive vibes. Moving forward. So, an interesting fan theory that I thought I'd bring up for this particular portion is that Serges is someone that a lot of people theorize to be Dr. Wily. Like, it's supposed to be Dr. Wily in Reploid form with his consciousness intact. And honestly, I don't really see it. I see Serges as nothing more than a character that they designed as a villain of the week, kind of like they did with, like, Dr. Cossack in Mega Man 4, for example. I mean, he does kind of have a design that's similar-ish to Wily, and he does head the X-Hunters. I just don't think Keiji Inafune is that smart of a writer to really think of something like that, you know? And, you know, Keiji Inafune isn't really gone now. So maybe Capcom could probably fill in the holes and assume that maybe Surges is Dr. Wily. Who knows? I know Nintendo kind of took a lot of crazy liberties when they made the Hyrule Historia, for example, and filled in holes in ways in which we didn't expect, like the Hero Shade from Twilight Princess being the fucking Hero of Time from Ocarina of Time, for example, so... Anywho, this stage is, it's something, I guess. These platforms actually kind of remind me of the weird lifts from World 7 of Mario 3, in which you kind of jump on them to influence their movement. And, it's a little bit unwieldy, I won't lie. But you can actually skip big portions of this if you have your movement down pretty effectively, and the Crystal Hunter really helps as well. So most people don't even really bother with a lot of this nonsense. In fact, you know what? I'm going to break the rules. I'm going to have you come over here, make me a platform, and all is well in the world. Ow! Where did you come from, you jerky? Actually, so, this stage actually contains something a little bit special. Something along the lines of Hadouken levels of special, and we're going to be utilizing that once we hit that. You want to take this path here. You can also use the lift from earlier if you want, but I don't think that's totally necessary. And then Crystal Hunter is going to be our friend in creating some additional lifts here to minimize the amount of movement needed to get to this point here. Gotta be really careful because this section really loves its spikes. Oh boy. Let's hope I don't mess this up. Fuck! Alright. So from here on out, you basically want to stick to this wall until we run into a special little something hiding in this crevice. Here we are. And this is a reward that you can only get if you have all of the sub-tanks, heart tanks, and armor parts in the game. Wow, you are so cool. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Step inside for a special surprise. So much like the Hadouken in X1, we get the Shoryuken for X2, and it's pretty fucking awesome. It uses the same inputs and all from the same fighting game of its caliber, and you can use it to insta-kill bosses moving forward. I'm not going to be using it for this next boss, though, because that would be a little too cheesy, and we wouldn't want that. And here, for this next section here, you want to use the Crystal Hunter to make ice platforms out of these guys. Yeah, this stage is probably more of a puzzle stage, if anything. It kind of feels out of place in a Mega Man game, not gonna lie, but it's the thought that counts. At least it's not, you know, comprised of terribly offensive, like, super bland stages, you know? So, yeah, they're interesting stages. I think the X1, like, Fortress stages are just a little bit better, though. Not by much, but I do think there are merits to be had with ow. Anywho, this fight is a lot more fair than the last two. As I say, as I'm getting struck by everything, because I have not played this boss fight in a while. Basically, you want to move out of the way once he drops these things, and ow. And Magnet Mine is a really good weakness to have for this kind of boss fight, because it basically ensures that you don't have to do as much movement as you normally would for most other enemies in comparison. I don't know why this couldn't have been the first boss, you know? Anywho, as you saw there, it didn't take me long for me to actually adapt to this. I mean, just kind of watch the ceiling, make sure you step within the right crevices, occasionally dash out of the way when he launches that giant sparky ball of doom, and Agile goes down without much issue. Booyah! Anywho, I am pooped. I am certainly pooped, and we still have 2 stages left. So, with that being said, I am KenMeisterLP, and I will see you guys in the finale of Mega Man X2. So, see you guys then!